You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try and be the best. Not be better than other people, be the best for you.
The real estate market often seems like a distant world where only an elite of experts is successful. In a time of so much uncertainty in the air and bad news, real estate investing can seem intimidating. But today, I want to tell you that if you make the right decision today, you can enter the real estate market from the back door. Bad credit record? No credit at all? Do you dread the idea of having a home loan? Do you dream of owning investment properties? You are in the right place and right time, because we have created a program which is a tax lien and deed investment online course of only 14 hours. This course is specially designed for people like you who have big dreams. You will learn at your own pace and everything from your home computer. This is your chance. Join our membership for $19.99 a year. What are you waiting for? Visit our website primetimehomebuyerBuyback.org and sign up today for course access.
All right. Blessings, blessings. Welcome to Primetime Home Buyers, the buyback team. You're here with Tax Lien Lady Lashley, your real estate legal consultant. Okay, so where we're streaming today, I want to give a shout out to two platforms, Primetime Home Buyers as well as Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. We are restreaming this. We do apologize for the technical issues that I had the other day, but I said we're going to get back to it and make sure that we share this information. Shout out to Dalton, Illinois, as well as Thornton, Illinois. The reason why we are streaming this on Uncensored Enlightenment Talk is because I felt it is very important to share this information with the residents that I believe I am connected to. I love them so much. That is the Dalton, Illinois family and the Thornton Township, Illinois family. Okay. Now, one of the things that I found very important in some of the content that I shared with you guys on Uncensored Enlightenment Talk is that I believe there is some gentrification going on in that area and in many areas. And there are people who are becoming locked out of the market. We talk about a lot of mechanisms of why people are locked out of the market. Not only that inflation is through the roof, but one of the main reasons why the housing market is inflated and people are locked out the market because there are a lot of private investors, but they're not me and you. They are corporations. So I know you have seen that it's really hard for people to even rent because of the rent went up. So that is some of the things that we address on this platform, especially when we do our segment, Secure Your Energy. But today, this is a segment, Primetime Home Buyers. So what we're going to do is get back to the Q&A because we had a Q&A and that was Sunday and that was what was interrupted. We're going to answer a few questions like we did before, do the lineup, and we're going to get into the information that you want to hear about Illinois tax lien sale information, as well as we're going to get in getting prepared. Let me just make sure I have the name right for you guys of the next video that I'm going to share with you guys. I think it's how to determine the land values and factors that influence it. And that is what we're going to share with you towards the end. Now, it's important because when you're going into any real estate sector, be it the conventional way, foreclosures, deed, you have to know what may be your return on your investment. And how do you do that? You have to understand how to determine the land value, the housing market value, and we're going to go over that in that particular section. All right, so let's get to it. One of the first things that they asked about, now on the Q&A, you can email us or you can be in the audience and we will answer your questions. So these are some of the emails that we have got. Shout out to the Facebook group. Love you guys. And I think I did answer the question for one of the young ladies that asked about a reference to a lawyer. So I hope you got that. I did put it under the question you asked. If you have any questions, guys, and you're in the group, just put it there. Give me like 24 hours or so to get back to you. Just know that I'm going to get back to you. Okay, so one of the things they asked about was understanding zoning laws for tax lien investors. Is it important to understand zoning laws? And I say yes, yes, and yes. Not only because we had a series of natural disasters that actually changed the land structures, access to land. So it's very important if you're investing in places like North Carolina, certain parts of Georgia, Florida, some of the places that was hit with these particular disasters. So zoning regulations may change. They may be uninhabitable, but they may be on the tax lien list. So that is something that you want to do your research before, and that is the concept of doing your due diligence. So is it important? Yes, to understand zoning laws and the act and what zoning changes has occurred. Okay. And you can get that information from the zoning office in that particular county. Yes, they are open to talk to you about certain lands, even if you don't own it, or they may have a website where you can get information. Okay. So property land line and land surveys, are they important to pre-review? Um, to a certain extent, yes, it is, especially if you're doing it in rural areas where you will have a chance where you can have an easement on that particular property, or you have a chance that you have some sort of, how can I say, possible, property line issues. And that will happen if the properties are real close. That'll happen if people have properties that's behind your property. So if you are looking to invest in a place and you notice it's a property behind, you want to know, how do they access that property? Because you have to share driveways. So that information is public information. And again, you'll get that from the zoning office. And they can direct you to where you can get a land survey. Is that free? I don't think so. Sometimes they are. It can cost you $1, maybe cost you $5. But is it important to spend that little bit of change just before you invest? Yes, because you don't want to get into a situation that you're not prepared for, and that is doing your due diligence to be preventative, or to, like I said, know what you may have to spend, things that you may have to tackle if you're really interested in investing in property. So yes, property lines and land surveys are something good for you to review when you're doing your due diligence. Um, as a tax deed or tax lien investors, do you think you can participate in opportunity zones? Yes, yes, and yes. When you're dealing with counties or towns or how I say urban areas that participate in opportunity zones, they may have different names for this depending on where you're at, what region you're in. They don't discriminate on how you acquire the property. The property just have to be yours. Now, if you acquire land in a particular opportunity zone, that may be a benefit for you and that particular government. Sometimes you can go into the Chamber of Commerce in that area and see if they have any bids. Bidding don't always have to be on a federal level. It don't always have to be on a state level. It can be on a county level. As we talk about, sometimes we talk about SAM.com. We're going to get into government contracts later on earlier on next year. I'm like later on in the year. It is already November. Time flies. So we're going to talk about government contracts and kind of bridge into opportunity zones again and show you how you apply for that. What we do highlight is that you have to have your credentials together, especially if you're coming in as a business. They like to do B2B transactions. So it is good for you to establish your business in the correct way, and that will benefit you tax wise. Okay. I'm not a tax expert, but I do know how to file my taxes, and we will re-upload that video where we talk about business taxes and the benefits. Some of the benefits, and it's not only you just can write off things, but you also can take portions of the fair market value of your property and roll it over into the next year so you can save money. So there's a lot of benefits in being a real estate investor. Okay, so opportunity zones, that's where you will go maybe to a Chamber of Commerce, see what they have available. They don't discriminate as long as you own the property and it's yours. They may have a program that'll help you build on that property, or help you maintain that property, or especially if you want to use that for something that will benefit the community. Or if it is in a historical area, and when they have these properties that you invest in historical areas, they kind of want you to keep it a certain way. That's why I say you have to know where you're investing, because you're investing in a historical area and you want to do a total renovation. There may be some restrictions to that. That's why it's good to do your due diligence and kind of know, like, okay, what would be the benefit? I can't totally like rip this down, gut it out, because there's certain historical places that they want to keep the same, but the value is high, as well as I can contract with the government and possibly make this a business and get some tax credit and get some money. You know what I'm saying? So that is the benefit of investing in opportunity zones. And can you do it? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay. Now it is let me see. I think it's another question I want to get to. Is it one or two more questions? I'm trying to get to the question. Please excuse me. I think that's it. No, here we go. Found it. All right. Does the property, is it good to invest in property that needs improvement? That depends on your budget. And that's why we say, hey, if you're going to go into a deed auction, you want to at least have $10,000 to $15,000 depending on the market. $10,000 is not bad, but you do want to keep in mind that you want to have some type of line of credit or monies that's coming, because there may be some upgrades that you need to do. Depending on what improvement it is, I don't recommend that you get properties that are condemned. How do you know they condemned? You have to speak to the local government, especially, you look at certain structures and you know that they're not safe. We show you how to look at different structures online. The most up-to-date information you can to cross-reference that, especially if you're in another state. You want to use the GIS map, the Google map, as well as the tax assessor's map, and you want to compare and contrast. And sometimes you want to go to these real estate websites if there's an actual structure on there like a home, and you'll see a lot of that information. Cross-reference it and say, hey, okay, this is how the property actually looked, this is the value of it. But if it's any major improvements, like you need a whole new roof and things like that, and I don't think that it should be a property that you invest in for your first investment. Maybe your third or fourth, when you have some equity, you can go get a loan to build on that, and you'll be able to pay that loan back fast when you improve the property and flip it, especially under the guise of investing in a deed or a tax lien, because it's the entry level to that compared to a foreclosure or a conventional sale is much lower. I mean, you're literally probably at 20% of the fair market value, depending on how high the taxes is in that particular area. So if you're coming into buying a deed for $15,000 in the end, and the value of that home is $250,000, and you spend $15,000, and you know it's going to take you $10,000 to get a new roof on there, that's $25,000. So you're going to walk away with $225,000 profit margin. It's not going to be overnight, but with a deed, you move faster than a tax lien, actually. So it'll feel like overnight with a deed. You just need to be ready to move. Okay. So pick and choose what improvements you can actually handle, and you want to look to see if the property is condemned, or, as I said, any natural disasters that happened in the area. You want to keep that in mind, because that may have impacted that home and the value, because it's going to take you to rebuild that home. If that person, some people insurance didn't cover, or how can I say, they're just paying people out to move in certain areas. So you have private investors and things like that. So you really want to do your due diligence, especially in areas like North Carolina. Like I said, the places that have been hit with these natural disasters, it changes the market a lot. Okay, so we talked about the land surveys and boundaries. I think I answered that question. And this will be the last question. If there's people living in the home, what to do? There is a possibility when you're you're investing in tax liens and tax deeds, that there may be someone still in the home, because if they haven't been formally evicted, they will still be there, and you will have to go through a secondary process after obtaining a home and having possession of. You don't have possession, but you'll be the homeowner. But at that point, you'll have to gain possession, and you have to do it legally. So you would have to look at the county, particular steps to evict. So that is a process you want to know, and you will be able to know that if you do your due diligence, because when you're looking at these properties, I'm going to give you a little hint. When you're looking at these properties and the homeowner's name is the same as the address of the property, like the homeowner's address is the same as the property, you'll know that it's a possibility that that person still lives there. Okay. Now I'm giving you an example. Me as an investor, the owner property is different from the property. So someone looking at a property that I own, they were like, hey, okay, that person doesn't live there. Okay. So that's one of the ways you can determine. And there's a few others that we teach you about in the program to show you how to do your due diligence. So we're about 10 minutes in. I just wanted to do a quick Q&A and address some of these questions that they had asked. I know they were kind of a repeat from the other day, but because we were cut off, I wanted to do it again, do it. Take two. All right. Thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. Thank you for being here with Lashley. So what we're going to do is just talk a little bit about Illinois. We do have a full state-to-state breakdown, and on the PDF that we have available, it tells you all the counties as well as where you will invest. Where do you go to find some more information about these particular tax lien sales? And that one of the entities that you will look into is Illinois Department of Revenue. Okay. Now, Illinois is a tax lien state, and they have a bid down method, no over the counter. Okay, no over the counter sales. What do they mean by bid down method? What does that mean? Meaning that you're not going to bid down when you're bidding for the actual tax lien, but you have to bid down the interest. Illinois has a interest amount of about 18%. So what does that mean? If you invest in a tax lien out there and a homeowner wants to redeem it, they will have to pay 18%. Now, let's keep this in mind that 18% is compound interest. So you want to divide that by 12. And if the homeowner pays within 6 months, it will be half of 18%. Does that make sense? So just remember that this is compound interest, and it's not like you invest today and the homeowner pay next week and you get a full 18%. Depending on the state rules, that's usually how it works. Some are different. So that's why we also say it's important to find the laws of it, these are located in each state law. How do they do tax sales? Okay. So that's why it's important to do that. So 18%. And the reason why they have a bid down method is because they want you to bid down the percent you're going to get. Good and bad it depends. Every state moves different. You know, they all got their own shark way of doing stuff. I was just talking about Florida. I was like, oh Lord, you in Florida? Let me tell you about them. So every county have their own little way to save money or whatever. But that 18% is actually not from the county, it's from the homeowner. So that's a way of kind of helping the homeowner be able to reacquire their property. And what that goes to say, the bid down method is basically they will have you guys bid down off that 18%. So whoever gets, let's say, they say I'll be like 16%. That's what I will accept as the investor. The next person is like, well, I'll accept 14%. The other person said, well, I'll accept 7%, and they will go with the person that'll go the lowest. Some people would just get quiet, like, well, I ain't going below 7%, especially because the market, this, that, and the third. Or some people will go even down to 0%. Can they do that? Depending on the state law. Now, if someone goes down to 0%, I believe it is, I forgot what state it is, but there is a state where if you go down to 0%, there's a base. So you will get between 1 or 2%. It cannot be 0% in some states. But if you bid down, that's kind of the protection mechanism that you will get something. But they want to give the homeowner an opportunity to get their property back. Because obviously, if it's hard for them to pay the regular tax, it's going to be hard for them to pay that extra percentage. So that's what Illinois, I think, kind of do to help the homeowner get back into the property. And that is the bid down method. So, there is a 2 to 3 year redemption process. It depends on the county. So by law, they have 2 to 3 years. The county can pick and choose what that is. And what does that mean? 2 years, within 2 years, the homeowner has to to get that property, they have up to 2 years to pay you back. So it's a 2-year redemption property out timeline in Illinois. Does that make sense? Meaning that if you invest today in the tax lien, let's say it's 11/5, they on 11/5 2006, 2026, I do apologize, 2026, you can move forward to foreclose on that property. Okay, there is a time wait for here, but the homeowner will have to pay you your initial investment plus the 18%, because obviously a year or two went by. Now I'm giving y'all a little bit nitty gritty, okay, because if you have a redemption state that has a 2-year redemption, that means that it's going to be another year of taxes that's going to be out there. So you as a tax lien investor have to be on point and be in communication with the tax assessor's office. And usually what they will do is they will contact the bidder some way, if they're friendly like that, and say, hey, the next taxes is due. Do you want to invest? They give you the opportunity to pay off those next year taxes before they put it on a tax roll. Okay. Now, if the county don't let you know and you're not on point, and they put it on a tax roll and there's another tax sale and someone invested in it, you have two investors now. You're like, oh, wow, this is getting complicated. Yes, some places are complicated, but once you understand it, you'll be straight and you'll actually be preventative and not let another investor get that next tax lien, because you're just putting a lien on the property. All right. So in that particular instance, when it advances at that 2-year mark, and I'm giving you an example, 11/5/2026, because you are first in line, the first investor has the right to actually move forward on a foreclosure process to obtain the property. But the only way that you will do this at this point is that you'll have to pay the second investor off, and they have to pay the full 18% to them, or the bid down amount that they bid down at that sale. Does that make sense? So you want to prevent it from getting that complicated and make sure that the next year taxes that are due, because if they didn't pay you yet, the next year taxes is going to be due. So anticipate that and you pay it, so it don't get to the point that you'll have to pay an extra percentage to another investor. But then if you get to that point where you change your mind and you're the first in line, you can give that second investor the opportunity to say, hey, you can actually foreclose, but you just have to pay me. You have to pay me what I invested plus whatever bid down amount. So does that make sense? It's called first in line. So you get a little bit of power when you do this. Now, let me see. Let's move forward. Text about into 2 categories. Celebrated. So those without payment schedule installments. Okay, so I went into more the delinquency of when they have to. Let me get down to the checklist. So we got 18%. The people that you will contact in any county out in Illinois will be the clerk. So the clerk is when I kept saying the tax assessor's office, though usually it's the tax assessor's office or the sheriff office or a clerk office that will host it. That's why you have to do your research on a state-by-state basis. So it's the clerk go to the clerk office, and they'll be the people who have that information. So redemptions begins the day of the sale, the tax sale. This is very important for you guys to know, because every tax lien matures. So that means that if you hold this over a certain amount of years, then you actually lost your investment money and it matures. So you just need to know. But the way the process works, it won't go that far. You'll have the pressure on you because you'll have another investor if you slept and didn't do what you were supposed to do. And they're going to be like, hey, I'm about to move forward. You want me to pay you? So usually that don't happen, but you want to be aware. Most counties require registration for the office, for the auction. Most instances, counties prefer payment within 24 hours. So you want to know what payment method that you need. Usually they take only certified checks, or they take cash. Okay, because out here in Georgia, I was like, well, you take cash? Ooh, let me find out. So anyway, they take cash as well, but you want to contact the clerk or read the frequent asked questions. Remember, before you call, read the frequent asked questions. You want to be educated as possible. You don't want to drive these people crazy. I'm not saying all of them are upset, but some are upset, especially when that's only 9 to 5. They think you're a big investor and things like that. That would have nothing to do with you. Sometimes they do. I mean, but you just want to come in knowledgeable and say, hey, I was looking at your frequent asked questions, and I overlooked this. Is this on the website, or would you be able to help me? And they're like, sure. And you're like, okay. You be very nice, be pleasant, because once you invest in the county, you are actually a resident. You are a resident. Any property that you own, any county that you own property in, you are a resident. You want to be aware of what's going on. You definitely pay attention to the board meetings that they have, because that will affect your taxes that you pay. You see what I'm saying? You got to get involved. That's why I say start in one state and do 1 or 2 counties, because you want to know as much as possible, because you are a resident there. Okay, you want to know how resources as well. Please keep in mind that Illinois is a very complicated tax lien investment state, and there are required filing dates to maintain your tax certificate. Yes. So what do I mean by maintain filing dates? We're going to get into some of the filing dates, but it depends. Dalton, y'all see how complicated y'all mayor has made it. So because each little township can do so much, they make their own rules and regulations, and you really want to read it. I don't think that they charge you a fee in between you already owning it, but owning it, I'm like, have invest interest in the tax lien, but you want to pay attention. That's why I say pick and choose. I was just telling someone, because they was like, they want to do Florida, and I'm like, okay, Florida is complicated, and they like sharks. Maybe you want to start in another state that you don't want right now, but it's easier to invest. And once you invest and you get that property, not only do you got an asset, make yourself more lendable, but it probably allow you to learn more about the actual state and get you ready for the state that you want to get into, which may be, like I said, Illinois or Florida. You can start at an easier state that has a shorter redemption time, not 2 years. You see what I'm saying? Like Georgia is 1 year. Maryland is 6 months. You want to kind of deal with those states that you could kind of move a little bit faster to get into the process, and then mitigate the complications. That's when I say it's a little complicated, because you hear all the things I'm telling you got to do. All right. So let's continue to go down this checklist. The breakdown of the tax lien redemption. They can vary between different property ownership. Example, owner-occupied homes have 2.5 years of redemption. Remember, I was saying between 2 to 3 years. We talked about if the home is occupied still. So Illinois is doing it now. You got to remember, it may get complicated like this because the state don't want to just put people out. So if the home is occupied, it is a 2.5 year redemption period. And then the homeowner, then you can move forward on the foreclosure mechanism. Non-occupied home have a 2-year redemption time. Residence units that have more than 6 properties have up to a 3-year redemption time. So if you get a multifamily home out there, it's 3 years. You got to pay attention, 3 years, and pray that the county people have it together and they're nice. They just like, hey, taxes due. Do you want it? You want to pay it? They send you the bill, you pay it. If you don't pay it, it doesn't mean that you're in delinquents. Is the homeowner still in delinquents? You still have vested interest, but then there's another party that have vested interest. Does that make sense? So now we see the 2 to 3 year redemption period. And not all states is like that. Not at all. Not as complicated as Illinois. Okay, I can see how they complicated on all levels at this point. The state do offer over-the-counter sales. All over-the-counter sales have an interest of 12% guaranteed. What is over-the-counter? So I'm not going to give y'all a full method. We do have a seminar on that. But over-the-counter is basically that the properties that did not sell at the tax lien sale, they are there and holding. And the county do not want these properties to be abandoned, so they come up with programs, or they have over-the-counter sales, and you can invest. And at that point, when it's over-the-counter, there's no bid down. There's no one for you to bid down. You're just going to go in there and you're going to say, hey, do y'all have any over-the-counter properties or any residual properties from the tax lien sale? Verbiage could be different. That's what we have a dictionary for you guys when y'all join the program, because I want you guys to understand that there's a lingo. There's a lingo I had to learn. That's why it be so complicated. I'll be telling people, please, Do not give me any acronyms. Don't say, the CBC, the DBA, because I look at it from a nursing perspective, real estate. I'm like, please just say the name. Say the name. So those are some of the things you want to keep in mind. Let's see, where am I at? This they offer over the counter. So when you ask them, do they have over the counter properties available? They'll send you the list. Sometimes you can do this, you don't have to do it in person. I think everything should be done through email. I do honestly think that you should have a paper trail, because when you call, it's just a call. They can hang up and forget about you. I'm not saying that they all do that, but you do a paper trail, you start to build a rapport with the county clerk, and they will send you that information for your list of like 30 properties. Over the counter tax lien investment is the safest to me, because you get the time to do your due diligence. If you're going to invest in the actual tax lien sale, you literally have 6 weeks to figure this out, because they don't start to advertise the property and put it in a public platform until 6 weeks. And usually it starts in the local newspaper. You'll see these properties that have back taxes in the local newspaper. And then the tax assessor would release it probably like 2 weeks prior. And then they update the list in between. And then that's where you have your time to actually research before you go to a live auction. But when you're over the counter, these been sitting. And they're not all condemned. They're not bad, because that's how I did it first. And I'll be the proof that I found land, and one that's close to an acre is sellable, buildable. And it was sitting there. Nobody saw it. Nobody wanted it. Maybe because people look for the houses. So, and then some people don't want certain things in certain areas. So then they send you the list. You communicate with them. You make your bid. And that usually starts at the minimum amount the taxes due and whatever fees that they have, attached to that. And then you ask them like, hey, I want to bid this much. And they say, okay. Because there's no one else to actually, be in competition with you. So some counties do offer over the counter. So that is great. And at this time, the same concept of the second and third year tax lien investment are offered at 12%. Does that make sense? So if you buy it over the counter, next year you talk to them, because that next year taxes is going to be on the roster. So hopefully they have a communication method with you and like, hey, it's due. And you pay it. If not, it's going to be on a roster. So as you say, it's the same mechanism if you went to a live sale. Okay. So this gives you an increased option or possibility to receive up to 24%. So that's if you acquire both of them. And if you do the math, that is 24. Well, it's 24%, but it depends if you bid it down for 2 years. Does that make sense? 24% interest. That's your possibility of getting if you do it the right way. And if you ain't bid yourself down to zero. But I don't think they let you bid down to zero. Please contact the county, because some counties offer third-party private companies to administer their tax lien sale. And that's what we kind of saw today. If y'all saw on a live what we were talking about, it was auction.com there. So that is the foreclosure. And that's the lawyers using them. We're going to talk about that. But in this particular instance, if the county is small, they can use a platform like Bid Assist, Bid for Assets, or whatever platform that will host it for them, because that platform probably hosts other tax lien sales, and you'll go through that actual website, register, and do what you need to do. Some states make you register at the county and then go through that website. I have saw that, but regardless, I just want you to know sometimes some county use third-party website, and they don't have their clerk doing it. It's not done on a clerk level. Does that make sense? And that should be written in their laws. You will be aware of that if you knew where to find the laws at, because that's one of the first things you do before you go and just look for property. Like, what is the laws behind? Because you want to know the end game. You want to know what I have to do to have this property in my hand. Just because you invested in it, you already see that there's a possibility that somebody else may get the property in their hand. So you want to know what's the end game, and that is first looking at the law that apply to your investment area. All right, and then I'm going to get to y'all questions. I see probably some questions up there. I'm going to just get through this Illinois thing. I was going to play the Illinois video for y'all, but I said, why won't I just read the checklist off to y'all again myself, and then we'll do the other video for y'all. All right, so here we go. There are only 2 counties that okay. It says there are only 2 counties that offer scavenger sales. These scavenger sales are done at Cook County. And you remember that scavenger sales is probably something like that dollar. Remember they were selling property for $1? That's a concept of the scavenger sale, okay? And Marion County. And this is done every other year. But this information can be updated. I think I had when I did this, it was about a year ago, a year and a half ago. You go to the county and you find your details. So you could go on Cook County website. Maybe we'll go down that yellow brick road for y'all. Go down Cook County tax lien and see all the different ways that they sell a property because they have different programs. You see what I'm saying? Obviously. So it's 2 of them that does scavenger sales, and I think we encountered that learning about Tiffany Henyard trying to buy property from Cook County using the tax people payers money in Dalton. Some scavenger sales. All right. So to start the process of of a possession, remember when you invest in a tax lien, you just have interest in the property. You cannot go over there. You cannot be like, hey, this is my property. You just have interest. You could create, you can pay attention, but you can't go over there. You just have vested interest because this is not a deed state. And even if you invest in a deed, you need to make sure you have possession. And if somebody's there, you have to go the conventional method. But usually if no one there, you got the deed, you gain possession, you walk right in. Does that make sense? So to start to take possession of the property, the tax lien investor must, 1, give notice to the clerk office. So then now you get to your 2-year point. And no one's there because 2-year point is when you like nobody there, you can move forward. You contact the clerk and say, hey, I have vested interest in this property and I'm looking to move forward, or I want to make you aware that I'm moving forward. The county clerk will move forward on the procedures to give notice to the parties with payment of service fee. So it's good. The county clerk actually do part of the due diligence for you, because this could be something that you may have to do with other counties. And that is when it's time to move forward, now you have to put everybody on notice that has vested interest in this property. Who has vested interest, could have vested interest in this property? It could be heirs. It could be family members. You see what I'm saying? It could be creditors. If there are liens on a property, because we're first lien holders, example, credit card liens or other liens, if it's not an IRS lien, and these are people you just need to put on notice, put them on notice, they have to remove their lien and go put it on a person because you're first in line. That's why it's so good to invest in tax liens and tax deeds, baby. You first in line under the IRS. And when you're doing your due diligence, you want to look for IRS liens, because if it is an IRS lien, you will be responsible. If it's $30,000 in back taxes, you won't have to pay them. And you don't want to do that. That's part of the due diligence. But the other people, you're going to know who they are and you're going to put them on notice. But in this particular case, the clerk does. She know everyone who have vested interest, or the parties who have liens on them outside of you. And that may be mechanical liens or whatever. She'll put them on notice, let them know. And then if they want the property, they have to pay you. But 9 out of 10, those type of people, individuals, don't. Depends if it's an heir. And how do you know if the party has an heir? Anybody? You look for the will. So we teach you how to look for people's wills and this public information that's connected to the property. If it's that estate is have beneficiaries, those are the people that you put on notice. And if they want it, they have to pay you. That's it. So this is an investment tool as well. This is an investment avenue. You don't always come out with a property, but 9 out of 10, you end up with the property, because if it's been sitting, that means people didn't want to, they're not paying attention to it. It does not mean that it's junk property. It does not mean that you can't rebuild it. Some of you guys are connected to builders. Some of you guys are builders. Y'all can make this projects of your own. I'm always coming up with some type of ideas. Now, it says within 5 months of this time frame, no less than 3 months prior to the expiration of the redemption, a judgment should be pursued towards the property. So you do have to do a judicial process. Do you know the difference between judicial and non-judicial? Non-judicial means you ain't gonna see a judge. Judicial, you have to see the judge some way, somehow. Now, it may not be complicated as what I always compare. Maryland, I'm glad I did Maryland because they so damn complicated and meticulous. It may be that you just submit some papers to the judges and they run it down a roster and approve it. But you have to see how the county does it. It says the purchase of the tax lien then can move forward to file a claim in circuit court within the jurisdiction of the property. This is asking the district court to issue the tax deed if the property is not redeemed from the sub. Now that's great. That means you don't have to do a formal foreclosure because a formal foreclosure method is a little timey, 6 months. Yes, but here they say you, like I said, you hand the papers in. No one has petitioned. They did not pay. They check it and they convert it into a deed for you. Okay, so that's great. Now I don't know if these deeds have no liens because if it's not a conventional foreclosure process, and you because usually a foreclosure process is very formal. You got to put everybody on notice. Blah 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 blah. But with the deed they just converted in advance the tax lien into a deed and you the deed holder. Okay, but that does not mean that you may not have things attached to that. Okay, now you want to do a typical title search, and the title search will cost you about $200, and the title company will research and insure your property for you. But you want to keep in mind, you want to know the laws before. I'm gonna give you an example. Me in Maryland, when I was ready to sell the property, I had a little issue where I couldn't get a title company to insure the property. We already got the abstract. We knew everything was clear. Everybody's put on notice there was no issues. And I'm saying to myself, literally, we had to do some research because it made the buyer nervous. And I'm like, no, I've been holding this property for 2 years. There's no issue. Nobody came back to say, hey, I want to pay you back because it depends on the state law. Even after you acquire it, someone who had vested interest could say, hey, that's my property. I want to pay you off. Okay, that don't happen, but they still give people that chance. Okay, so in Maryland, they have up to 3 years after I own it through the tax lien sale to come back and say, hey, I have vested interest. I want to pay you. And that was on the state level, I think. And that was causing complications for me. And the person was like, what you mean I can't get insurance? Now, title insurance does not mean a property is not sellable. Not getting title insurance does not mean that something's wrong with the property. Title insurance is literally for you to be able to get lenders on a property that you have acquired without a lender or through a tax lien sale, like example, tax lien sale or a deed. Once the title company insure it, then that makes the lender more comfortable to give you a loan to build on it. They like, you got title insurance, like, okay, I'm good then, but it's like title insurance, nope. But lender be kind of skeptical. And then you got to move forward with cash options or a credit line to help you build on that property. So what ended up happening is that I had it for 2 years and I was getting to the 3-year point. And I said, okay, me and the buyer, I built a rapport with him. He knew I was very honorable. And I said, you got 1 more year to actually get title insurance if you want to take a conventional loan on this property to build on it. You can hold it for this year. It's right there. You secure it. You already know I held it for 2 years. No one's coming back for it. And then you can get title insurance to do it that way. In the meantime, you could be fixing on it little by little your way without having a conventional loan. You may finish the project without getting one. And he was like, listen, I trust you. I already know we do business. You get more property. Let's go. I'm like, okay. So this is the breakdown of title insurance because people get nervous like, oh my God, I got this property. I can't get title insurance. So there in the state of Illinois, you want to know what's the laws because if you want to sell this property right away, they're probably like, wait, you got to hold the property for 3 years before you get title insurance. That doesn't mean that you can't sell that as a personal seller. That doesn't mean you can't build on it as a personal owner. That just means the lenders is going to be like, wait a minute. But if you have assets, other lenders that don't require title insurance will lend to you. there are many different lenders. We also have a lot of the rich and elite that sponsor programs to invest in businesses because they don't have the time. They just want to invest. They want to write that off. So there's a lot of private lenders that you can get a line of credit from as a business owner. So just keep that in mind, that once you acquire these properties, they become assets and they make you more lendable, and it gives you time to actually fix your credit if you need to fix your credit. Does that make sense? Okay. I think I'm getting down. I gave y'all a lot of information about Illinois. If y'all have any more questions about Illinois, let me know. It is a complicated state, but that's what we're here for. We're here to educate. Um, this petition will be forward to all parties. That's where we left off. That's invested. Once the redemption period has expired and the property has not been redeemed, all taxes and special assignments are forfeited by the current owner. What's going on here? I paused. It was like pause. It's forfeited by the current owner. So they can't come back after this. So I told you some states allow them to come back. So that's telling me that answered the question that we just went into detail. Would you be able to get title insurance? Yes, I do believe so, because if they can't come back and it's forfeited by law, you shouldn't be a problem getting title insurance out there in Illinois. Okay. At that time, an order will be placed for judgment of possession for the property owner investor. All right. So they do that automatically. They do the process. Well, you move forward to gain possession. Now, most states don't make you have to do that if it's no one in the property. Once you get the deed and you transfer it, it's yours. But Illinois make you do the formal possession process, and that depends on the county, or they just issue a certificate of possession, especially if it's no one in the home. I don't think they will make you go through a conventional process. That's just ridiculous. So 2 years is if it's not home owner occupied, 2.5 years if it's occupied, and 3 years if it's a unit between 4 and 6. I think that's what they said, right? So I think I broke down Illinois really good for y'all. How about that? Shout out to Tax Swing Lady Lashley. I'm back at it because I haven't been making lives of a lot. And I really love investing in tax. And I really love the whole thing. Blessing Charles, how are you? Thank you for being with us. Kay, thank you. Thank you, Miss Scott Helly. Thank you for being with us. If you have any questions, let us know. So what I'm going to do is share the video with you guys. We're 41 minutes in. Usually I make my primetime home buyers videos 1 hour, 1.5 hours. We're going to make it 1.5 hours because I want to give you a little bit more and some things to think about, because you want to be proactive. You don't want to be on a, what do you say? Defense. Let me not talk football. I'm gonna talk football. Defense. You always on the defense. Offense is the one where you going after it, right? Correct me. I'll be watching football games almost every other Saturday, watching them kids bang their head, and I'll be like, I don't know what they're doing. I just want them to be alive. Just be alive. All right. Okay. How to get. Okay, let's play how to determine land values and factors that influence it. So this is going to be to the people who are interested in starting with land. Okay. And when you're doing land investment, it is much cheaper than doing it getting a property with a home on it. It is much cheaper, and that would allow you to be creative and become a builder. You see what I'm saying? I like the land because it's this. I like. Hold on, what happened? I'm sorry. Am I out? I'm not out. Right. I'm not out. Okay. I'm sorry. I jumped on another thing. I got scared. I was like, oh my God, I done clicked off. I found the video, y'all. So this video is going to help y'all determine the land value and why that's important, because you want to know the base amount of the land. What you can do with the land is going to increase the value of how much you're going to be able to sell it, and it's going to allow you to be creative. All right. So don't only look for property that has a house on it. Let's look for some land and let's build from scratch. Okay. Let's see. We got it on screen, y'all. Please hit the like button. I appreciate you guys being with me today. Come on. All right, all right. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Primetime Home Buyers. And you're here with your host, Lashley, team lead if you're part of the buyback team. If you're not live today, to get some of this information that I love to share on Fridays and Mondays, just in case you're new to the page. Now, today, if you are part of the buyback team, you know what we have been talking about. We have been talking about selling land and the steps to doing so, how to set up contracts, the foundations of real estate contracts, information for buyers and sellers. If you have not seen that, please look at last week's live. And we're going to continue down that same path, but we're going to talk in the perspective of the seller. Okay, so we have many individuals into investing in tax liens, tax deeds, foreclosures, sheriff sales, as well as conventional home loans. We're going to kind of go over that possibly next week. The general like findings of valuing a home for sale and other things that you may evolve when you're selling the home. Okay, so that's just going to be another live. But today we're going to be doing a formal live. So I'm going to get the PowerPoint on the screen. You won't be seeing my big head. Y'all know I'm always cracking jokes. I can't help it because sometimes I look at the camera and then it just be like, okay, so don't pay no attention to Lashley. I like to crack jokes. All right, so today's topic is how to find the market value of vacant lots. Okay, so let's get the presentation up there. What I like to do is take myself off the screen so I don't distract you. I'll be coming back on the screen towards the end of the broadcast because what we're going to go on is 2 platforms that's going to help you calculate the value of your vacant lot. Okay, this is not always an easy process, but if you want to sell, you want to be successful, offer the best price, don't overprice, and consider the different things that we talk about tonight. Now, according to the title, how to find the market values of vacant lots. Now, I know I do errors, but that's not an error tonight because there's different values that you can consider or approaches when valuing your lot. So these 3 approaches to valuing land can be based on income focus. We're going to talk about that. Cost focus, as well as comparison of sale focus, which is the basic way of doing things, the conventional comp process. Okay. Income focus approach. Income focus approaches focus on the amount of income that the property may produce. Okay. So as a seller, you want to keep that in mind as well, because that may help you value the land higher. Okay. Buildable properties versus non-buildable properties. Sellers may look at the market rent price in the area of similar properties. That's one thing that you can consider. Does this actual land is going to be built? It's going to have apartments. It's going to be a one-family house, depending on the zoning. These are some of the things you can keep in mind. If you have, let's say, about 1,400 square feet property, and you sell it to a buyer who wants to build, and they may want to build a duplex or a two-level family or two-side family. Based on the zoning, if they can do that, you can value the property more than an actual property that don't allow for that zoning. Okay, so that's why I want you to keep that in mind. Other factors such as size, location, condition, and the shape of the land influence the price. Now, as tax lien and tax deed investors, we always stress, look at the property, get an aerial view. If you're not going to go on just Google Maps Live, you use the GIS map. And the reason why you do that, because you don't want to get an odd-shaped land. It may be 3 acres and it may be a rectangle, and you may not be able to build, so you want to pay attention to those things. Issues to consider, that was some of the things that I just talked about, but when considering a sale price through an income approach method, it is sometimes considered hard to generate income from vacant lots. So just know if it's a vacant lot, sometimes it's hard to sell based on this method, okay? Excluding working with general contractors. A regular person may not know all the ins and outs of the value they may get from their investment. And you can explain that to them, but it doesn't mean that they're going to see the full potential value. Now, if you're selling to a contractor, contractors know value, okay? And that's one of the resources I want to tell you to use as we continue down into the PowerPoints. Cost focus approach. Now, this is the second approach of valuing your land. You can be looking at it cost focus. Cost focus when the sellers determine the cost of building on that land as well. So the other one was more with land and renting, but this is just building on the land. This includes the construction permit and other things needed to properly build a property, okay? These things you want to keep in mind, what type of market it is. If you want to sell property fast, you want to lower the price based on the buyer's need in the market. Some individuals also approach this method by considering how much it will cost for the building materials, okay? This approach is less used based on the factors considered. Just know that, as I just told you, but this is something that some people, use as a way to value their land. It's not really successful, but it do depend on what market you're in. Again, I want to say thank you for being here with Lashley today on Friday's Buyback with Primetime Home Buyers. So issues to consider when using cost-focused method is important to consider. Are there improvements on the property and commodities available? If I purchase the property today, how much would it be, or how much would I be able to resell the property tomorrow? Okay, so these are the things you want to consider in your pricing, because if you have a buyer that want to flip and sell it real fast because they have the market, you may can lower the price and just get it off of your hands, because the longer you hold the property, the more liability you have. Okay, so this is the third method of valuing land, and this is very similar to the method of valuing homes, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. Is using your comps, going in, talking to realtors, going to get the appraisal, the last one, all of that stuff. This is some of the stuff you can do for comparison of sale pricing. When considering comps and comparison, it is like the same approach as conventional home value. You want to consider the price of similar properties and how much they have sold for in the recent 30 to 60 days. 60 days is kind of pushing it. 30 days is the window. It is very important to focus on properties that were actually sold in a time frame within 30 days. Okay, so that's your go-to. You want to look at comparables that's the same size, shape the same size, in the area. You want to go no more than, I usually stay with range, but that's really a lot. You want to go in a 10-mile radius. This, to get the information you need pertaining to the comps. You don't want to go out that far because they end up not being comparables, okay? This information can be located via public records, a real estate agent, or a local appraiser. So it's not going to be by us, or a local appraiser. Okay, so it is good to go to a local appraiser because you may not have to get a new appraisal. You can just look at the old or the most recent appraisal they have on the books and kind of determine based on how long it was ago, any changes that happened, market changes, structural changes, those things, okay? So that's the third method of pricing land. I'm laughing right now, I do apologize. I'm finding something very amusing, okay? Now let's move forward. Issues to consider when you're pricing based on comps, okay? Especially with land, and this is focused on land. Is there comparables in the area to consider? When you have land, it's not always comparables. And as I found out that some land, the way it's cut it really don't even meet the zoning and building criteria. And you may have to petition to get certain lands to be able to build on. We're going to talk about that on Monday, possibly, okay? So the considerations of buildable lots versus non-buildable lots. That's another thing you want to keep in mind. If you have a non-buildable lot, you may not want to price it high because that person will not be able to build on it. So it's in time they may be able to build on it because things do change, and if they know the process, they can get it converted to a buildable lot if it falls within the zone. It's just up to what they want to do, and if they have to go through that process, you want to price that property, that land properly. Okay. Consideration as well. Consider one-of-a-kind lots and properties. This can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. This can be a situation that add value or devalue the price of the property. If you have a special piece of land, and it happens to be one of the biggest pieces of land in the area, or what is next to like a mountainside. For example, we give you right here, example, if the incredible area has beautiful view, access to natural resource like a waterfall, things like that. These are things that's going to actually change how you approach the valuation of the property, okay? Especially if you have property next to waterfalls, ski lodges. If you're in places like Colorado, where it literally snows on the mountain and they do a lot of those type of things, you make it a rental property that you can property you can turn to an Airbnb or a vacation home. So these are the things you want to keep in mind when you're going into, buying tax liens and tax deeds and foreclosures. What's the end game? What can you possibly do? And if you're going to sell it, who you're going to sell it to? If you're going to keep it, who you're going to rent it to, and what you're going to do with it, okay? Zoning consideration is something very important. We keep bringing up different factors of zoning consideration and how it can make or break your deal. Now, if we find them zone in places that, where the buyer wants to do commercial property and they can't, that's just going to exclude that buyer. Or you're going to do zoning considerations where certain things can't be built in the property. So at that local area, let's say not only just commercials, or maybe they want to do agriculture and that's just not the zone for it. Some actual areas forbid you to do agriculture development, okay? It has to be certain square footage from city sewers and all this type of stuff, okay? Keep that in mind. So zoning consideration, what do the builder want to use the land for? The buyer, I do apologize, what does the buyer want to use the land for? You have to keep that in mind as a person pricing the land. Can land be used to build or for agriculture? If it is, you're gonna up the price. Is it zoned for farming or other situations like mining, electrical contracts? These are the things you want to keep in mind. If it does have an easement on it related to electrical wiring, you want to let the buyer know because this may make or break the deal, okay? Be sure to understand the zoning considerations before planning and developing. Now that is to you if you're going to plan and develop, and that is the same mind frame you want to keep by, when you set up a contract with your actual buyer. You have to be honest. We talked about that. So that's why we teach you at the buyback team how to research, so you don't get things that you want to dump off, things that you have to be compromising in and saying, well, I'm not going to tell them it's not buildable, those type of things. You want to know everything about your property that you're selling. The market for the property, is this something that you want to consider when you're valuing? Sometimes the market go kaput. 2008, it's something happening right now. We just keeping an eye on things. So is it a desirable property in the market? Sometimes there's specialty property, historical property, you may have got your hand on it. As a seller or buyer, you always want to consider your first impression of the land. What was your first impression of the land when you saw? All right. Let me get myself on the screen for you guys. We're going to bring this broadcast to an end. Hold on. That was a clip of the sales seminar that I host. I have a portion of the program where I have a sell portion of the seminar where I teach you how to sell, concepts of selling. I do apologize. Concepts of selling and the things that you need to consider, especially as a private seller. You don't always have to sell your property through a realtor. There are a lot of platforms. So we went over that's available. So today was basically a 2-part series where, just a flashback, we did our Q&A. And then we went into Illinois' complicated tax lien process, but I know I shared a lot of information to get you guys started. One of the things I want to highlight with any state or any place that you invest in, do your due diligence. That is what we're going to be showing next week. Next week, we're going to put together, well, we're putting together the clips today that we acquired from Henry County tax lien sale. We actually talked to an auction.com representative where she was breaking down the process of auction.com. And one of the things she was saying is do your due diligence. And that's what our program is here for you to do. Because even in auction.com, I asked, I said, the lady representative, I said, hey, is it a possibility that after the person received the property from you guys or acquired the property, that there may be liens on the property? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, this is why we're here. We want to make sure that the buyers, these private investors, me and you, we know about this. So we can troubleshoot it, have an idea, have our monies ready, or whatever we need to do to get that out of the way. All right. So I want to say thank you for being with us today. I hope you learned a lot. We will be back next week. I won't be streaming on Uncensored Enlightenment Talk with Primetime Home Buyers content, but I only do it when it is related to the subject matter that we show. So my Illinois family, I hope you learned a lot from Tax Lien Lady Lashley, your real estate legal consultant. Let me know if there's anything that I can do for you guys. I do prompt you guys to pay attention to the tax video that I did highlighting how to actually appeal your taxes. Okay. I love you guys. Have a great afternoon.
The real estate market often seems like a distant world where only an elite of experts is successful. In a time of so much uncertainty in the air and bad news, realist investing can seem intimidating. But today, I want to tell you that if you make the right decision today, you can enter the real estate market from the back door. Bad credit record? No credit at all? Do you dread the idea of having a home loan? Do you dream of owning investment properties? You are in the right place and right time, because we have created a program which is a tax lien and deed investment online course of only 14 hours. This course is specially designed for people like you who have big dreams. You will learn at your own pace and everything from your home computer. This is your chance. Join our membership for $19.99 a year. What are you waiting for? Visit our website primetimehomebuyerBuyback.org and sign up today for course access.